Again, Maria has been running her own business, and she's been helping so many people across Western Sydney into their first home and into their homes through her mortgage broking business. And so it's great to have you as part of our team and for you to bring that experience. And you wouldn't be a Liberal candidate for Parramatta if you weren't firmly on the Eels team as well, and where you've been involved as a board director on women at Eels. And I want to thank you for the work there you're doing in Women's Rugby League, but particularly here in the Parramatta Club. Today is an important day because overnight we've issued a statement as the AUKUS partnership. And the AUKUS partnership, as you know, was put in place by our government together with the United States and the United Kingdom as an important partnership that would massively upscale our capabilities in terms of our own defence and bringing a strategic balance into the Indo-Pacific region. Now, of course, everyone knows that the biggest part of that program was the nuclear-powered submarines, and that's the first time that that technology has been made available by the United States to any other country since the United Kingdom had it in 1958. So this was the most significant defence agreement that Australia has entered into since ANZUS 70 years ago, and this enables us to keep ahead and stay ahead of the many challenges we're facing with security in our region. Now, the other things that are part of AUKUS, even more significantly than in some respects, especially in the near term, is the work we're doing on advanced defence technology. And here at Tullis, this is what they do. They are world leaders right here in Parramatta in the sonar array technology that they develop, not just for here in Australia, but all around the world. And that is a demonstration of Australia's defence industry capability. Now, what we've announced overnight is that hypersonics and the various technologies that surround hypersonics are very much a part of what the AUKUS partnership is striving to deliver, not just in Australia, but in the United States and the United Kingdom as well. Working together, the best technologists, best defence industry, the best of our defence forces, ensuring that each of our capabilities is being raised. And that goes along with artificial intelligence and quantum. Now, all of that is incredibly important for Australia's defences, but it's also an incredibly important part of our economic plan. Now, our economic plan is about getting taxes down and cutting red tape. It's about investing in skills and infrastructure. It's about reliable and affordable energy. It's about moving into the data digital economy and being a top 10 data and digital economy by 2030. And it's also about making things here in Australia, making important things here in Australia like they are making here at Tullis with 500 employees right here in the heart of Parramatta. And so there is a clear link between Australia's economic security and our defence security. And they come together in projects like this, the AUKUS partnership, and the industry and the jobs and the thousands and thousands of jobs, the research and the development, bringing the best minds to work on the biggest projects. And that's what the AUKUS partnership delivers. That's what an economic plan that delivers for Australia is all about. Now, I mentioned our economic plan and the first point in that plan, and that is about ensuring that we keep taxes low. Now, we're getting almost to the very start of the official campaign here in Australia for our federal election. And yesterday, the Labor Party, through their shadow treasurer, announced that they would take the speed limit off taxes. I put the brake on taxes. I put the limit on taxes on when I was Treasurer. And that was based on clear advice from Treasury and working out that we needed to ensure that taxes did not rise in this country, which would slow down growth and would cost jobs. I set it at 23.9% of our total size of our economy. And that is an incredibly important safeguard. It is a guardrail to ensure that taxes don't get out of control in Australia, and as revenues rise, that we don't take more out of the economy than we're allowing it to put in. It's a very important budget tool. It puts discipline in the budget. And Jim Chalmers wants to let taxes rip. He wants a no-limits tax policy. We know what they did at the last election, $387 billion worth of high taxes. Now we're going into this election and Labor wants to take the tax cap off. They want to let it rip. They want to have a no-limits tax policy. We told you that these are the sorts of things that Labor would do. Why would you want to get rid of a tax cap if you didn't want to increase taxes? I think it's pretty clear.
Prime Minister, it's pretty obvious you're campaigning here. You've even got your campaign buddy Ben Morrison back here. Are you calling the election tomorrow?
No.
When are you doing it on the weekend then?
Well, the election will be called soon enough, and it's going to be a very important election because, you know, over the last couple of years, Australians, rightly, have been focused on getting through what has been a very tough period for this country. They've been putting their kids through homeschooling as they've gone through lockdowns. They've been trying to keep their business open. They've been trying to keep their livelihoods in place. Many of them have contracted COVID themselves, but yet we have one of the lowest rates of COVID fatality death rates of anywhere in the world, saving 40,000 lives. But Australians have been working hard to get through this very difficult time. And now there is the opportunity before they make a very important decision at the next election, an election which is going to determine the strength of our economy, the strength of our national security, how we can keep Australians safe. Now is not the time to be taking a different direction. Our strong economic plan has seen a $100 billion turnaround in the last 12 months as a result of ensuring that we brought our economy through the pandemic and we've made it strong so we can launch into the future and have a stronger future based on the success of that economic plan.
Prime Minister, you got some criticism from the New South Wales and Queensland governments today on flood assistance. Now, New South Wales, this $112 million, we spoke about it yesterday. You said you have to be in a position where it's a 1 in 500-year flood before the Commonwealth funds it. I don't really understand that. If your house is flooded, your house is flooded. So maybe you can explain. And well, Queensland, just on Queensland.
Yep.
The Queensland Treasurer says today you didn't chip in on the $700 million that they've announced, and he says it is clear the Prime Minister has made a political calculation. He's decided he doesn't need flood victims to vote for him, so he has nothing to offer. Now, you just spent $8.5 billion on temporary cost of living measures, on payments out the window. Is it politically that smart not to provide this flooding assistance so close to an election?
Well, let me deal with those issues in turn. First of all, in New South Wales, we have committed $2.1 billion to the New South Wales flood response. $2.1 billion. And $1 billion of that has already been paid to flood victims already. And we have also engaged with the New South Wales Government in significant 50-50 cost-sharing arrangements on the many programs that they've done over a series of programs. And as I made very clear yesterday, for the additional support that goes above and beyond all of that for the most affected areas, far and beyond we've seen in any floods around the country. Of course we're going to continue to support those particularly acute areas. That's what we've done. $2.1 billion, $1 billion already out the door. So when state governments have spent as much as we have on supporting flood victims, then I think they can be critical. But when they still have not yet got even the money out the door, when we've got $1 billion here in New South Wales, I think that speaks for itself. Now, in Queensland, let me be very clear about what we have done in Queensland already. Already, we have some $360 million, which has been able to be paid directly to people. 375 million, I should be clear. 360 on the disaster recovery payment. That has already been paid to 311,838 Queenslanders. A further 15 million has been paid to 13,731 Queenslanders, for a total of 375 million already in the pockets of Queenslanders who desperately needed it. That funding is 100% from the Commonwealth Government. State government doesn't put in a cent to that. On top of that, we have committed $130 million extra to replanting, restocking and farm infrastructure extension of those grants, 100% funded by the Commonwealth Government. On top of that, there is $279.25 million, which is our share in the first more than $500 million joint funded projects that we have done with the state government in responding to the floods. Now, on top of that, no, I'm sorry. I mean, you've asked me what the Commonwealth Government is doing to support flood victims in Queensland, and I'm telling you.
I've actually asked why you're not stumping up this.
No, what I'm telling you is that we have committed and already paid out over $375 million, 100% funded by the Commonwealth. Queensland Government. No, that's not what I'm saying. I mean, and more payments will be made under those programs which were 100% funded by the Commonwealth. See, there are shared responsibilities in how this is done. We fund things like the income support payments, and the state governments don't have to put in a cent to that. We fund other programs, such as the $130 million, which we've extended, 100% funded by the Commonwealth. And then there are the shared programs we do together.
So they're just whingers, are they?
Well, look, Well, I think we've seen over some time now a real politicisation, and it's very unfortunate, a real politicisation of natural disasters. When the Queensland Government, who has responsibilities in the projects that they've outlined today, they are all Queensland responsibilities, and we think they should do that. And if they were to make those investments, they would probably approach what the Commonwealth has already invested in the Queensland flood response. So I don't think people, frankly, are that interested in the politicking between state governments having a crack at the federal government when it comes to flood response. What I know is we've already turned up, and we'll keep turning up with the things that we're responsible for, and state governments will get on with the things they're responsible for. The requests they've made under these programs go outside of the scope of what the normal arrangements are for flood responses, and so that's where state governments have to step up. Now, as I said, it's around $1 billion, just shy of $1 billion, that the Commonwealth has already committed, and $375 million of that already paid to Queenslanders. So we're turning up. We're there. We'll keep doing our job. I'm not looking to get into any disagreement with the state government, but they've got their job to do, and I encourage them to do it. We've got our job to do, and we're going to keep doing that.
Prime Minister, on local manufacturing, we mentioned how important it is to have it here. In regards to the AUKUS submarine, can you guarantee, other than the nuclear reactor, that it will be built in Australia?
Oh, well, we're working through all of those issues at present. And that is certainly our intention, to maximise all of that. Of course it is. But it's also that the paramount goal is to ensure we get that capability as soon as we can, and it's in the best form that it can be, working with our partners.
Is the prospect of going to the High Court playing to win your call the election?
Sorry?
Is the prospect of going to the High Court playing to win your call the election?
No.
The hypersonic missiles, when will we see them? Why do we need them? Is it because we're worried China will invade us? Is it because we're worried China will invade Taiwan? What are we seeking to prevent or seeking to arm ourselves with?
Well, that's all, I think, very clearly set out in the long-range strategic plan that I updated 2 years ago, and you'll be very aware that a key part of that plan is ensuring that Australia has long-range strike capabilities. Now, these missiles, hypersonics, are one of the fastest developing area of missile technology, and while Australia, together with our partners and allies, have very sophisticated and very advanced forms of defence, hypersonics are an area where we're looking to significantly upgrade our capabilities, and they're part of modern warfare, just like cyber is part of modern warfare. That's why we put $10 billion into the Red Spice program in this budget, to ensure that we can deal with the disabling impact that can come when we have cyber attacks. Now, that's the most significant investment that's ever been made in cyber warfare. But when it comes offensive and defensive, but when it comes to hypersonic missiles, they are one of the key technologies of combat in the future, and the long-range strike capability is a critical part of our defence, as set out in our Defence Strategic Plan.
Is it your belief in the next decade China will invade Taiwan? And if they were to do so, would Australia be at war with China?
Oh, look, I don't engage in that sort of inflammatory rhetoric, Andrew, because it's not my job to put Australians in a position of concern. It's my job to build our Defence Force capabilities, working with our partners, and AUKUS is the best example of that, but so is the Quad, to ensure that we can protect and defend and avoid any of the sorts of scenarios that you're talking about. That's why we do these things. We do these things to keep Australians safe. We do these things to bring balance and strategic certainty to our region, and that's why we work with so many partners in the region. We engage in this as an effort to achieve peace and stability, not the alternative. The reason we invest in all of these things is to create a peaceful environment and a stable environment in our region, not one driven by conflict.
Morley text today from Vice Versa Julian, and she has not denied that they came from her. Why were you under the impression that she had?
Well, they're not more. They're the same things that people were going on about before, so there's nothing new in that. And look, Gladys had said herself that she has no recollection of that in her own discussions with me, given the nature of the language. She said she would be very surprised. So look, I should have said she didn't recollect them. She denied them. All I know is I haven't seen them, and that's not her view about the way we work together. And I think she's been very clear about that.
You made a series of appointments at the last minute. At least your ministers have. Prue Goward, John Harlan, a lot of Liberal people. Michael Mission. looks pretty cynical, doesn't it? You're about to call an election and a whole bunch of Liberals get these government appointments. I mean,
we make appointments all the time, Andrew. I mean, you know, we appointed Gary Gray as the ambassador to Ireland. You know, we make appointments regularly, and Labor people have been appointed to the exact same positions that you're talking about over the course of our term. These people are qualified for the jobs. They'll do a great job, and I look forward to them doing a good job. I think, you know, that's simply why they've been appointed.
Are you calling an election May 21 because you need as much time as possible to come from behind in this race?
I said we'd run a full term, and I said we'd run for 3 years. And that's what we're doing. I've been up with the Australian people. There have been plenty of people speculating on election dates with great certainty up until now, and they've been proved wrong time and again. I always said you get elected to do a job. We've been doing that job, keeping our economy strong, and that's what creates a stronger future for Australia. What I've noticed today, we've got the Labor Party announced a policy last week, only had one to announce last week, fell apart after 4 days. There were almost 200 separate policies in the budget last week. They're all making Australia stronger, particularly dealing with cost of living pressures now and ensuring a stronger future for Australia. It's great to have you on the team, Maria. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Please join me.